How fun was that? I mean, it was miserable for 40 minutes, and then at the third period, it really picked up. Anybody who is a Utah Hockey Club fan smiling as they enjoy their first victory over the Boston Bruins. Battle of a game tonight for the Utah Hockey Club. But Michael freaking Kesselring, right? He is coming along, man. he's so much more than what we could have ever hoped for, man. He's really stepped in for Sean Durzi. Comes up big in overtime. Had the other shot that went off the post. It looked like it almost went in. I had a lot of people fooled. But, there they are. 1-1 overtime. They have the 4-on-3. It doesn't quite work out in that scenario. Full on. The time runs out, but they're waiting for... I don't know. Actually, that's something that I need to learn more about the rule on that is that when the power play ends and the puck is live, do you play until there's a stoppage and then the player comes off? Anyway, that's something to look up. That's not actually something that I fully up on. I think that's probably what happens. But anyway, it was awesome. Michael Kesselring, he was much like the quote from Theodore Roosevelt in his book Strenuous Life. It says, "Far better it is to dare mighty things, to win glorious triumphs, even though checkered by failure, than to take rank with those poor spirits who neither enjoy much nor suffer much because they live in the gray twilight that knows neither victory nor defeat." Kesselring, the Theodore Roosevelt of the Bonneville Southlands. Michael Kesselring, huh? That was great. What a great game he played. He was awesome. The other guy that was awesome tonight, as always, it was Mikhail Sergachev. I just, he's out there. He's playing against the best Boston Bruins line. He's playing against everyone, but he's out there against Marchand and Pasternak and doing everything that he can to try to manage Zacha and Pasternak and Coyle and Marchand. And through all of that, you saw Sergachev and the good work that was put in by Kesselring, the Roosevelt of Kings Peak. What we were able to see tonight from the defensive men and the step forward that these players have taken. A lot of people were worried if Sergachev could be the 1D. He's a 1D. Kesselring's a top 4 defenseman. He is going to be a top 4 defenseman. He is incredibly young. And really in his second year, how many games has he even played? Let's just take just wait for 1 second for me to Google that. But Kesselring, yes. Let's take a look at this. Yes, he hasn't even played 82 games yet in his career. That's 79. Tonight was his 80th game. So 80 games into his career, we're talking about a 24-year-old player. Usually defensemen really come into their own by the time they're like 27, 28. If Kesselring can keep this going, man, oh man, he's been terrific. He's been terrific. They've asked him to do more. He continues to provide more. He is driving play. He's getting the puck and controlling play through the offensive zone. I think that he has done a tremendous work by trying to help the Utah Hockey Club have the puck on the right end of the ice. He's getting it out of the zones, and he is playing in all the situations. It's not easy to find a player that's playing in every circumstance for your team, and yet that's what they're getting from Michael Kesselring. So it's an interesting time to watch the Utah Hockey Club lean into the youth and get results from it. I think that tonight was an interesting game because you also got to see Vladislav Kolyachonok, the Belarusian. He got a goal. I think that's his second goal of his career. And he's a rookie this year. And I believe for Kolyachonok, that he's 23 years old. That little move where he went from the forehand, flipped it over to the backhand, and then roofed that thing. That was a tasty bit of play. That was a pretty nasty moment by the man from Minsk. I think Kolyachonok as well has risen to the occasion. He has got more ground to make up, but he's also 23, and he's getting his first sustained NHL action. Really, that's become reliable. So Kolyachonok, he's played 44 games. It's crazy. When he was 20, the Arizona Coyotes had a 20-year-old playing on the blue line for 16 minutes a game, and then they're like, "Why isn't he coming along?" Like, develop players. It's kind of crazy. So, and that's what it looks like. Bill Armstrong came in and was like, "Yeah, go develop, go play in the AHL, come along," and he has. He's come along. That finish that he had tonight was impressive. That was a great finish by Vladislav Kolyachonok. So so it was pretty cool to watch Kolyachonok get that goal. I think that's his. Let's just check, make sure we're right about that. Yeah, I think that's his second goal in his career. It's his third goal in his career. So congratulations to him. His first goal of the season. It was a great setup. It's one of those interesting games where it just felt like really what needed to happen is that they just needed to get the offensive. They need to get the defenseman on the puck and then have them have a chance. One came on the shorthand, but really it was just transition moments for defensemen tonight, and that's how the Utah Hockey Club got opportunities to score. That was when they had their most menace. I think it was a really fascinating game to watch through the first period as the chess match kind of went back and forth. Obviously, Pasternak, Marchand, Zacha, they are tough. That's a tough group, right? And as you watch, Marchand and Pasta work together, and they've played together for so long, and they've been so productive together. It was awesome to kind of watch the good work that was being put in by the Utah Hockey Club to try to make it so that it wasn't like, okay, they're totally neutralized, they're not creating out here, but there wasn't anything that had terrible menace behind it. Connor Ingram didn't have to face impossible shots coming from, David Pasternak. They were keeping the shots to the outside. When shots came, he had opportunity to see the puck and try to find his way through that, and then react to having somebody, react to the puck coming in and having the shot come through. So it's really, really good work as we watch that go. I'm trying to look real quick. Yeah, so Marchand only one shot tonight. Pasta only took two, and then they gave up. They decided Pavel Zacha was the poison they'd take when it was those guys, and so obviously they were cheating and doing what they could to try to take on that group. But I think that the other part that I continue to feel really excited about is they're not shying away from throwing McBain, Cooley, and Gunther out there to have to handle some of the defensive duties out there. But really, a lot of the work came in from the third line. And that third line is really developing into, like, when you think of an NHL third line, when you think about what teams like to get from that, they like to get energy. They like to get checking in. They like to potentially, get the puck to the other end, get a little momentum, a couple hits in. And, obviously different lines have different roles. Your top line, you want them to snipe. You want them to try to be as productive as they can, keep the puck on one of the ice. The second line, you hope, is sort of like the first line that is going to do this. But the checking line, the defensive unit, that you can throw in as that third line. And then there was a lot of talk on the broadcast for the Utah Hockey Club about how good the fourth line played. I thought they were good. I thought they were fine. I was surprised that it was like they were going well out of their way. The reality is that at 5-on-5, in terms of the forwards in the NHL, like I love Matias Maccelli, and I love what he might bring to the Utah Hockey Club, and I know what he can do in terms of playmaking. But I really thought that Maccelli had, well, first of all, just the numbers, all the advanced stats show at 5-on-5, like he's been absolutely garbage. Anthony, thanks for checking in. Dylan Guenther tonight, yeah, he looked better tonight. He started slow. He's making little adjustments. He did not score, but he did have a couple shots. How many shots did he get in tonight? Let's take a look at that. 2 shots in tonight, and he blocked a shot defensively, so that's his second block of the year. He's coming along. They didn't play him on the penalty kill like they did against Anaheim the night before, but I thought that Guenther, in terms of what he brings, the amount of attention he garners already in his career, it's really impressive. And he had a couple quick shots that he snapped in on Swayman that created problems. And as he created more problems for Swayman, they had lots of chances where it just seemed like the puck couldn't get in. Swayman was able to compete and keep it out, and the Bruins were able to survive. And so Guenther had, a couple opportunities, it seemed like, where if he didn't score, the rebound would have scored. So he did some things that were really good. I like to see the movement that Guenther is taking on the power play. They've really got him set up on the power play on that left wing dot, and working the circle over there. And Sergachev, they got the umbrella set up where they got Cooley on one side, and then they got Sergachev, and then they throw Guenther on the other side with Schmaltz at the bumper spot, and then down low, is it Hayton? Anyway, but the point is that as they put the puck over to Dylan Guenther, Guenther will rifle it in there in a way that you've seen from the Washington Capitals for the last 20 years. That it really is just like they're letting him try to dominate from the left wing circle the way that you've watched Alexander Ovechkin dominate from the left wing circle. He's not doing what Ovechkin did. Ovechkin scored 60 goals as a rookie. He was absolutely menace. He was just completely nasty from that spot. I'd love to see Dylan Guenther, grow into the role of that sort of player, bona fide Hall of Famer, one of the best goal scorers ever. But what I'm saying is the way they're using him, the way they're allowing him to try to dominate on the power play, it's helpful. It's really fascinating that on a team that has Clayton Keller on the right wing and working on the right wing, he's not the one they're afraid of. The one they're afraid of is Dylan Guenther. So, the 2 goals for the Utah Hockey Club were exciting, and you gotta love it. I had covered this, but the 2 goals by defensemen who scored on wristers and skill moves. It wasn't just kind of, wrap it back in there and maybe it found a seam and then hit the net. These were both really, calculated shots where they beat the goalie clean. And so between Kolyachonok, he's 23 years old, and he found a way to beat in that little flip onto his backhand, and then just putting it right over the glove of Swayman. That was a really, really sweet move. And then obviously the shot by Kesselring, who is the Roosevelt of the Four Corners. He is absolutely a monster. He is just playing some great hockey. Coming off the Anaheim game, I had talked about that in the third period, and it's an interesting, I actually think this speaks more to how awesome Mikhail Sergachev is too, but it was awesome to see how much better this has made Kesselring being partnered with Sergachev. Like, I think there's a chance, and we know Durzee's out for a long time now, but I think there's a chance. There's this thing that can happen where you partner a guy on a line with a dominant player, and then it just elevates them because they're with a guy that makes it so that they don't have to worry as much. And I really feel like they're unlocking a lot from Michael Kesselring right now. It's really awesome to see. Really fun to see Michael Kesselring get unlocked by this partnership with Sergachev. And if players can get that much better by being partnered with Sergachev, his value is just enormous. And when you look at what Sergachev is accomplishing on 5-on-5 and what he's doing for the team, he leads in every advanced stat, metric. He is helping to drive the play. When he's on the ice, they're generating offense and they're not giving up as many good chances. I had looked through the first 5 games. The way that they measure that is the expected goals and then the expected goals against, and then they do your expected goals divided by the combination of the two, expected goals for, expected goals against. And so if it's at 50%, you're neither winning or losing. And Sergachev coming into the game tonight. Yeah, Sergachev is just a menace out there. He's awesome. Is like 63% is where he is, and that puts him among, it's early in the season and what they're doing, but yes, he's absolutely destroying out there. So they're awesome with him, and it's making Kesselring better. It's making the rest of the team get better. Leg injury from last year not slowing him down. No. Sergachev is he looks like he's ready to roll. So I'm loving Mikhail Sergachev. I loved him when he was in Tampa. I've always been a huge Victor Hedman fan. He's one of those players, as soon as you saw him play, you're like, man, that guy, like, wouldn't it be great to have him on your team? And now we do have an opportunity to have, Sergachev, who learned from Hedman how to kind of control and run things from the blue line. I know he had the injury, but as things are currently standing, no, he doesn't look slowed down. He doesn't look like a shell of himself. He looks like he recovered really well from the leg, and he is playing great. And, he's getting assists. He's creating chances offensively. And again, they're playing him in every situation. He's killing penalties. He's on the power play. He's quarterbacking power plays. He's the second most important penalty killer to the team. And in my opinion, I think probably the drawing of Kevin Stenlin on the defensive zone makes him, a really effective tool in terms of his penalty kill. But yeah. So look, it's been a really fun season so far. It's been fun to watch the Utah Hockey Club come along and have some of these things go. Okay, now look, it's been happy for 24 minutes now here. Okay. Oh, you bet on Utah Fantasy, and I think the atmosphere makes a tremendous difference on how the players get amped up for a game. Yeah. Well, look. I think it was a good move. I have a couple players from the Utah Hockey Club on my fantasy team as well. I took a shot on Dylan Gunther, so that was one that makes me happy. Still waiting for. I also have Cooley, but Cooley, he's getting assists. I'd like to see him get some goals. But by the way, the pass from Cooley to Kesselring in overtime, that was pretty. That was a pretty sick pass. Cross ice. Right on the tape, and it made it easy for Kesselring to get the finish. From fantasy perspective too, we'll have to watch. Right, it's one of those. Be careful out there. Don't overreact on Michael Kesselring yet in terms of adding him to your fantasy group, but that might be kind of a sneaky addition, especially with Durze being out. But look, the Arizona Coyotes. The owner situation for them, Alex Morello, the apathy of that market. Not that the Arizona Coyote fans there are, of course, among them very, good, smart, intelligent, good hockey fans. But the market at large, the apathy overall to that franchise is cannot be overstated. They were trying to, I mean, the news, and whether, there's people argue about the facts and all this, but the report was that they were having, the difficulties paying their bills for the lease for the Glendale Arena. So then they had to move out of the Glendale Arena for whatever reason. Okay, now, people are disputing that. But whatever the case, something happened that made them have to leave. They go and play at Mullet Arena at Arizona State, and they try to get their own arena with in the city of Tempe. And they're trying to get the land where a landfill is, the biggest landfill in the area. They're like, hey, we're going to put a new arena there. We're going to make an entertainment district. You're going to have an NHL team right here in Tempe. That's what we're going to do. We need, some money for that, and let's have it to a vote. And the citizens of Tempe, and, for whatever, different people can feel different ways. But the citizens of Tempe looked at that and they're like, okay, do we want the Coyotes or do we want to keep this landfill? We could make a new landfill just up the road. Do we want to just stay with the landfill we currently have, or do we want the Arizona Coyotes? They chose the landfill. So if you're a player on the team, you're like, wow, they'd rather have a heap of garbage instead of us. When we talk about morale, atmosphere around this team, what the players are experiencing, I don't know. I don't know how you could potentially, even relate. It's like, it's going from horses to cars. I mean, the difference in terms of quality of life for these guys, it's just got to be huge. I would just say the other report is that there was difficulty for Alex Morello in paying his debts. And so there was just a dark cloud kind of over the whole team. They'd go and stay in hotel rooms, and then hotels would get stiffed, or they would get calls back negotiating for lower rates after they'd already stayed at the hotel. And so by and large, that was the environment that team had. They were always making trades to try to get to the salary floor rather than get to the salary cap. That was one of the advantages that Utah Hockey Club had once they came to Utah, is there was like $25 million in cap space, and there was lots of space that they could maneuver in order to get guys like Sergachev on the team, in order to extend Dylan Guenther, to go grab, the vets like Ian Cole, and make a trade for Marino. And by the way, if Marino comes back, when he comes back, it'll be interesting to see him get folded in. He's a different kind of player as well. I mean, I don't. It'll be interesting to watch him come along, because he's not exactly an offensive force. I don't know that you want to interrupt what's happening with Kesselring, with Sergachev, so that'll be an interesting development as that comes along. But yes, the players, absolutely, Anthony. There's no question. Those players have to be loving playing in the Delta Center with the kind of energy. It is not the right building for hockey. It's going to get fixed, but right now it is not the right building for hockey. I've seen a game there. It is wild that there are parts of the ice that you just can't see. It's crazy. There aren't really seats behind the goal. There's like the 4 rows, and then there's a giant wall that says Utah Hockey Club instead of it being filled with people. It's, the crowd is really on top of the ice, which is so different than basically any of the other, rinks out there. And so that'll make it kind of an unusual and interesting place for a little bit. But, it's got to be so fun for these guys. Okay. I would just like to mention for a second. So we're 6 games into the year. And let's see if I can just do this off the jump here. Regulation victory against the Chicago Blackhawks. They need overtime to get a win against the New York Islanders. They need overtime to get a win against the Rangers. They get crushed by the New Jersey Devils. They lose in overtime to the Anaheim Ducks. And then tonight they win in overtime against the Boston Bruins. That would be 4 out of 6 games in overtime. 4 out of the last 5 games going to overtime. It means that they've only beaten one team in regulation so far, 6 games in. A lot of times, you don't want to have to count on overtime and those things. And I think it comes back to the same problem that I'm concerned about with the Utah Hockey Club. I think they're great on power plays. I think they're great in special team situations. They're great in the 3-on-3 typically. They play well in when they're on the 4-on-3. They're good at special teams, offensively. So the question that I wonder about the Utah Hockey Club is how do they get better at 5-on-5, and how can they start putting away teams in regulation? Now, I'm glad they're winning. I'm not going to complain that they're having really exciting games that require overtimes with lots of fun 3-on-3, and so far they're 3-1 and haven't had to go to a shootout yet. I don't like shootouts very much, and so I'm glad that there's been a decisive goal in the overtime. But I would just say that they're ahead of schedule. They have been able to pull out of 12 potential points. They've got 9 points. So their points percentage is great. They're at 75% on their point percentage. Like, it's amazing. If they keep that up, this is a playoff team without question. But the troubling part of all this is that you'd like to see them beat people in regulation. You'd like to see people have the opportunity to win in regulation and have opportunities to put it away and dominate and play a complete game. The Chicago game ended up being 5-2, but really, it was an empty netter. It was close. They have not shut the door on anybody. And so it'll be fascinating. Is that youth? Maybe. Is it just the nature of the NHL? It might be as well. Lots of good teams and they all know how to play, and it's a competitive league. But that's one of the things that, if we're being honest about this, there's got to be a little bit of concern there. Let's talk about Josh Doan. Yeah. So, So I love that Josh Doan wears the number 91. Shane Doan wore 19. They're different players. I think Josh Doan is a little bit smaller than Shane, or at least it seems that way. But it's also, he's young. He hasn't played that many games in the league yet. I think he's less than 20 games all time in the NHL at this point. So Josh Doan is I am impressed that they have him working on the third line, on the checking line, and that he is expected to take on defensive duties. It wasn't one of those things where Andre Tourigny, he would see David Pastrnak on the ice and would be like, all right, throw out Josh Doan. To me, that speaks a lot of volume about the kind of player that Josh Doan is already. So what do we think Josh Doan becomes? Well, I'm not totally. I mean, would it be awesome if he developed into like a consistent 30-goal scorer? Yes, I don't really see that for Josh Doan. He was really hot at the end of the season last year. It was a great story. It was really cool to see Josh Doan score. I did a little YouTube short on my channel about that, and it's really neat. It's really cool. And yeah, I think Josh Doan is probably more like, I think he has the upside to be like a 20 goal a year scorer. I think that he could be a player that can, yeah, I think he's a great third liner. And he's already there now. Does he have upside to get to top six? I think it's probably something I'm a little skeptical of at this moment. What do you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts on where you think Josh Doan goes and what he becomes for the Utah Hockey Club. I just kind of see him as, I think, kind of where he is, but the hope is that he gets to score more goals. And yeah. Oh, yeah. I like Madden. That's a great, Anthony, that is a great suggestion there. I'm just thinking about it. Pandolfo. Yeah, I think Madden is, yeah. I think, I don't know, like Scott Lawton. Like maybe like a rich man Scott Lawton, like a Scott Lawton with a higher ceiling. That's if you know Scott Lawton on the Flyers, yeah. So that's kind of, I'm trying to think of any other guys on different teams where you go like, oh yeah, maybe it's something like that. So like, or like, if he had like the career of, what was impressive about Josh Doan was against Anaheim, Radko Gudas is not to be troubled with, right? And Josh Doan took exception to a hit that I think was put on Keller by Gudas. And Josh Doan, went and got there. It wasn't an official fight, but they scrapped a little bit, and I liked it. Yeah, Zaka. Yeah, I think Zaka's a little different. I like that, but I think, yeah. We need to keep working at it. I think Zaka's pretty good. That's not a terrible. You're doing a good job there, Anthony. I appreciate it. Thanks for the support here and giving me somebody to talk to while we're on this. That makes it a lot more fun. So appreciate you checking in. Yeah. They're like, okay, like, what if he was like a poor man? Just well, no, I was gonna throw out a name that was it's too good. But yes, he, would it be amazing if he became like, I don't know, does he become a Selke kind of player? If he does, obviously every team loves having somebody like that. But he doesn't. He's not imposing in those ways. So anyway, so that's where we are with Josh Doan. But I will say, like, he has scored. He gets to the dirty areas, and tonight, he did a pretty good job against the top line for the Boston Bruins. So I think that was a good result for Josh Doan and his development as we go on through this season. The question is like, is he like a 40-point a year guy? I think he can potentially become a 40-point a year guy, and maybe has like 50-point upside, maybe. But as things currently stand, Josh Doan is not the kind. He's not. Yeah, I don't know. He's in the same world potentially as Shane Doan, I guess, right? In the sense that like they were physical and they scored kind of clutch goals and in big moments, and he had a goal that was pretty clutch earlier in the season. He finishes the opportunities he had, but the other part of Doan though is like, yeah, super solid. So Okay, well, so look, Connor Ingram tonight saved a lot of pucks. I thought that they did a good job of not having him face too many impossible shots, really difficult shots that were challenging for him. I thought that he did a good job of handling and managing. Yeah, that was a strange thing. Did he slip? I mean, the officials. He's, he's falling down out there like he's. He looked like he was ice skating like Adrian and Rocky. Like, oh, there goes my light. I would say, let me set that up real fast. Boop. Yeah, like there was a couple times where the Bruins players came near him. Was he embellishing to try to get a call? Maybe. I don't think so, but that was a little strange the two times he went down. And they didn't call anything. But yeah, he was down on his face a couple times in the game. That was really strange with Ingram. I thought that Ingram again, the thing with Connor Ingram is like it never looks impressive. It's not a thing where you're like, whoa, like he's, you're like, yeah, it's just all positioning. It's all technique. It's all being in the right spot, the right time, and just kind of sticking with it. And he continues to be a solid player. So that's where we are with him. The other guys too, Michelli, I think, it's a real question. Michelli on the power play is valuable. It looks like though he's got like one answer to all the questions. There's two Michelli things that like are driving me crazy. One is that every time he makes an offensive zone entry, tonight I think he made like 4, and on only one of them did he go deeper into the zone. Every time he crosses the blue line, and then he rips it down the blue line, and it gets intercepted. It gets taken all the time. It's scouted. Like he's trying to do a cross seam pass right at the blue line when they enter the zone. And, even when it's been completed in other games earlier this year, it's just not one of those things that for me makes a whole lot of sense. The other one too is there's times where you see Michelli work the puck onto his backhand and then try to make the pass across, where he's already got it on his forehand. He's got the opportunity to make that hard pass and have it go across. And there's been a couple times where I've seen him have it on his forehand and then turn and then come back and rip it. Look for that when you watch them next time. 63. He always does this. It's so strange to me. It's such a weird thing. The other thing too is that I think I'd love to see him be able to score and shoot, but it doesn't seem like he can. Like I know he's scored a few goals in this league, but I would say like he's most notable as a playmaker. He's most notable at what he can do to try to set up goals. And I think that, and I should look at it, and maybe I'll have this together a little better. But I would say this is that my hunch is that if you look at him, and certainly it's the case through the games this year, on 5-on-5, it's not great. It's real bad. But on the power play, it's pretty good. But his one mode on the power play is he goes on that left wing. They put him on the left wing in the circle. But every single time, he's just looking cross seam. Like, every single time. He very rarely will go bumper. He very rarely will work it behind the net. He almost always goes cross seam. So there's that. I think it's interesting. I mean, he's been moved down to the 4th line. Like, he's out there. Yamamoto came in. It's too bad that he went offside and then then brought the puck across. Yeah. Well, 4th liners, right? I was a 4th liner. I would just say that Yamamoto being in the lineup looked a lot more menacing than we've seen from Carcone and certainly from Liam O'Brien. I know that Spicy Tuna is a fan favorite, but and he has his place, I suppose, but that is not for me. If we're picking, give me Yamamoto, give me Carcone, And if we've got those two available, yeah, I don't see why we put Liam O'Brien out there. It just doesn't make any sense to me. He takes too many penalties. He's not actually an enforcer because people are anxious to fight him. He's not Ryan Reeves out there, or he's not Bob Probert. He's not scary. People are like anxious. He's like, oh wait, hey, Liam O'Brien might fight. So, yeah. So that's one of those things that we had. Okay, yeah. Oh boy, you want me to go down my own memory lane? Yeah, you know what? I actually had a cool, it wasn't like, I'm going to say alley-oop, but it's wrong. I just did a looping pass from the defensive zone. It went through the neutral zone. So, I did a little lob and went over the top. And then a guy, my teammate through the neutral zone, was able to skate onto it after it landed into the offensive zone. And he was on the breakaway. It was like we had that psychic connection. He knew I was going for it. So I flipped the puck up. I was a defensive guy, right? So couldn't skate, didn't have much hand-eye. But anyway, on the breakout, what I did is I flipped it nice and high, and it landed on the just like a foot past the blue line, but a teammate skated onto it, had the breakaway, and put that thing away, and that was a fun moment. So I think that's probably my favorite. My favorite. It was actually intended, yeah, like a Sedin goal. Yep. That play is wild. It's so fun to try, and it almost never works. But it did that time, so that was cool. Yeah, and then I think the other part is just to Lawson Krause. Every year, if you read preseason stories about Lawson Krause, he's always talking about how this is going to be the year he scores 30 goals. And I don't know. Yeah, I think he's got a couple. He had a lot of opportunities. He was very positive. And on the whole team, there wasn't a whole lot to say about them in the first or second period. Lawson Krause was like the one piece that was really helpful to, create a little bit of problems for the Bruins. But then when things were picking up for the team at large, on the whole, it was interesting to see that Lawson Krause wasn't contributing a lot in that circumstance. But the energy that got picked up, and that happens in these games, it was really interesting. It was like, I don't know if the Bruins, got the speed of the Utah Hockey Club caught up finally, and they were able to get loose. But, man, there was so many more shots down the stretch of that third period, and it created all those problems, and eventually that led to the Kolyachonik goal with 6 minutes left. So this was a game where, again, you feel like they stole it a little bit. They were able to compete and stay close enough. And then, after as soon as they started the overtime, that thing that Tourné does too in overtime it is so sick. Sending out Kevin Stenlund and being like, go win the face-off. And then he wins the face-off and then instantly skates to the bench. It's just, if you've got a guy that's that good at winning face-offs, we're sixth game of the season. I think his win percentage is pretty high. I think he's like plus 18 already in face-off win versus face-off losses. To this point, he's like one of the 10 best in the NHL in that stat. But I would say that strategy of what's the problem? Like, take the puck, go back, settle the puck, we'll set ourselves up, and we'll change a player as we come off. At some point, I would think the other team will have scouted this and will forecheck like crazy if they see Kevin Stenlund go out for the opening faceoff in overtime. I I think that, if he wins the draw and then he starts to skate off, like, why wouldn't you, now you got 3-on-2 for a second. And I know it's hard. There's so much space on the ice at that time, but I feel like there's got to be a counter to that for other teams. But to this point in the season, 4 overtime games, they've started all of them with Stenlund on the draw, and he's won the draw and then instantly headed off the ice. So it's a nice weapon to have, and it's not really something that I see a lot of other teams doing, because usually their best face-off guy isn't their fourth liner or penalty kill guy. Usually the top line center can win a face-off or two. Not that Barrett Hayton can't, but they're going to play Sergachev, they're going to play Keller, and they're going to play Schmaltz, and so that's where they are through all of that. So, but it is interesting that works. They start it, and then Keller with a just nifty footwork, right? And he actually fooled Pasternak and was able to draw the penalty on Pasta. And that was basically it. It was like, wow, they're going to win this game now because they're drawing that penalty. Between Logan Cooley and Keller, like, this is a group that's going to draw a lot of penalties. Like, Logan Cooley drew 2 penalties tonight, gave him opportunities to do that. And that's a skill. Last season, Logan Cooley was one of the 20 highest players in drawing penalties, drawing minors. So, and to do that as a rookie, that just shows the level of work that he puts in. And, right now, Cooley is not playing against other teams' best players. He is typically on this year's second line. Last season, he was on the third line for much of the year. Everyone thinks he's a franchise kind of player. And so in the sense that he may be a franchise player, he will play against the other team's best players at some point as it comes along, and who knows what happens in that circumstance. But as it stands now, Logan Cooley seems to have real ability to draw penalties, and some of his playmaking. It was his first time this season. It's taken a while, but he had his first breakaway opportunity, and I love the way that came through. Yeah, I would love to see that as a rivalry. If Karlsson can come around, that would be awesome, wouldn't that? That would be really fun to have that as a rivalry. Yeah, I mean, they're both in the West. The problem is real rivalries come in the postseason, and I'm not sure either of these teams are on track long term. Maybe so, but it seems like the Ducks have had like high-end talent for forever. But Leo Carlson is special, huh? How fun is that guy? I mean, he makes your hands, he gives you the chills a couple times a game. Where you're like, whoa, like, he's awesome. What a terrific player Leo Carlson is. I would love to see that as a rivalry in the future. In terms of the young stud players. He's 19. I think Cooley's 20. So they're right around each other. They're going to be playing against each other for a long, long time. And I think that there's a good chance that you're right on that, Anthony. He's electric. Leo Carlson is electric. He's awesome. How many good young players are the Ducks going to have before they start to actually turn the corner? Like, they had all those awesome blue liners, and they're like, well, we have too many good blue liners. And so then they traded, Jamie Drysdale and picked up, Cutter Gauthier. But they got Troy Terry, they got Cutter Gauthier, who's supposed to be good, but we'll see. We've got, Leo Carlson's going to come along. Obviously, Zegras is there. Like, they've got all this. Oh, man, Buffalo. The Sabres. That's another team, yeah. Why can't Buffalo ever come around, Anthony? What's that about? I've seen again, there are some guys. Owen Power, right? Like, how good is Owen Power? I love watching Owen Power and getting to see him. And obviously, Darlene. Oh, really? Oh, okay. Is the maybe the shrug is just about, why can't it come together for the Sabres? It looks like they won today. They were able to beat the Blackhawks. So, okay. Tage Thompson, right? Just taking a quick look at it. Yep, Dylan Cousins, he can play. Like, they've got a lot of guys. Bo Byram, they just picked. Yeah, they in that trade with the Avalanche. Anyway, at some point, the Buffalo Sabres have to take a step forward. We'll have to see what happens as it relates to them as things continue to go forward this season. Anthony, who's your team? Are you a Utah fan? Do you live in the area, or are you a Boston guy that's just tuning in, or just a hockey fan in general, like everybody? I don't know. Be curious to find out who your team is. Suddenly, we got Florida Panther fans that exist. They never existed before, but they do now. By the way, I mean, you make fun of bandwagon fans, but it is fun to watch the Florida Panthers. Like, they're awesome. Like, how do you not like watching Sasha Barkov and, Kachuk? And, yeah. Okay, let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Buffalo is their job is to develop players and then send them off somewhere else so that they can win a cup. That's right. Well, so, okay, if you're the GM, then you need to do everything in your power to figure out how to make that trade. Get on the phone right now, talk to him in Buffalo, and that. He likes watching players develop mostly, or older guys hang on. It's amazing, the ageless Sidney Crosby, isn't it? He's an amazing player. The thing about Sidney Crosby for me is I find him, obviously he's gifted offensively and stuff. It's just kind of nuts that, like, the marquee player of the league, if you were to say, like, what's the best thing about Sidney Crosby? It's like, well, whenever there's a puck battle, he wins it. So you get tons more possessions because he's on your team. And then if you have more possession of the puck, you have more opportunity to score. And also he's really good at passing and also scoring the puck. But the thing that, like, maybe he's definitely the best player ever at is just puck battles. Like, if it's on the boards or whatever, like, he always wins. But watching Crosby, get older and continue to do what he does, it is really a fascinating thing to watch. The next game for the Utah Hockey Club is against the Ottawa Senators, another team where you wonder, are they ever going to bring it together? Players developing on that team. Obviously they've got Brady Tkachuk. He's great. And a player that's hanging on there and still a pretty useful player is Claude Giroux. I think the Ottawa Senators are a team that is in many ways kind of in the same position as the Utah Hockey Club. The Senators are trying to take a step forward. Like, if they're not making playoffs or they're not in the mix of it this year, then what are they doing? They go make the trade for Linus Ullmark. They've got a bunch of, like, veteran talent that's been there. So like we're talking about, like, a Claude Giroux. You like David Perron and sort of the work that he does. Perron, yeah. And then the younger guys like Stützle and Pinto and Norris and Tkachuk, man, like, they have a lot of stuff that you look at it and you go, that should work. And then Shabbat, right, on the blue line for them, and Sanderson, like, these are like, collectively if it's on paper, you look at the Ottawa Senators and you think that's a team that should be getting there. They should be taking a step forward. And they've started 3-2, so congratulations to them. But they've given up 19 goals, 18 goals for as they get things going. I'd love to see the Ottawa Senators be able to actually take those steps forward and put themselves in the playoff mix. What's the point of where they are? They are kind of in the same position as the Utah Hockey Club. They've picked up a couple cornerstone pieces. They were active in adding pieces that they think they needed. They went and made the big trade to go get Omar. They're a lot like the Utah. They're like Utah Hockey Club East, except for they've been around forever. And yeah. So yeah, that's sort of in terms of the makeup of the two teams. Obviously, the different talents of the teams. They're a more grinded out team, but a lot of young players, a lot of promise, who need to continue to take step forward. But that's a franchise that needs to learn how to win games. And I don't know what things are like behind closed doors in Ottawa and what it's like for the Senators as a franchise. But everything I'm hearing about what it's like for the Utah Hockey Club right now indicates to me that Utah Hockey Club are in a position to set themselves up as a franchise to do things in a way that make them an attractive destination. Ottawa pulls in free agents, and it's always because it's like people just wanting to go back home. It's like it's why Giroux went back there, for instance, after he left Philly and then played for the Panthers for a little bit. Like now he's in Ottawa, and it's just to go home. And it's one of the advantages of all that. If we're to cash in on that, we can only get Trevor Lewis. So that's one thing that's very different about these two teams. And I don't know what sort of destination Utah Hockey Club is going to be in the offseason, though it was nice to hear Sergachev say, like, no, he absolutely wanted to come here. So that was cool. Okay, so let's leave it there. I appreciate you hanging out tonight, Anthony, and for anybody else who watched the stream tonight, really appreciate you guys hanging out and spending a little time watching my post game after the buzzer. Utah Hockey Club wins 2-1 over the over the Boston Bruins. The Ottawa Senators are next. My name is Keith Schertz. I run the Hive State Hockey YouTube channel and also have served as a play-by-play man for college hockey. That's it for tonight. Everyone take care, and we'll see you next time after the Ottawa game.